One of the most common and convenient ways people attempt to evade the moral responsibility of reproduction is by declaring, "It's not us who create life, it's God," as if the act of having sex, conceiving a child, and carrying it to term is just incidental, a passive role in a divine plan. This claim is not born of humility, it is a form of deflection, a theological sleight of hand used to repackage personal desire as cosmic destiny. Let's be clear, this isn't reverence, it's abdication. It allows people to take action while dodging accountability. It transforms a conscious choice into a supposed act of faith, letting parents feel virtuous while engaging in what is ultimately a personal decision. After the fact, they summon God as the author of life, not because they were guided by divine instruction, but because it cloaks their own motivations in moral and spiritual immunity. Often, this argument hinges on the idea of the soul. Parents may acknowledge they provide the biological blueprint, but they claim it is God who sprinkles the magic on the cell at the moment of conception to create a person. In this worldview, the parents are merely providing the hardware, while God provides the software. By framing it this way, they dust their hands of the decision. But this magic spark theory does not justify the imposition. Even if one believes God provides the soul, it was the human choice that forced that soul into a biological container capable of pain, hunger, and despair. To trigger a process and then blame the author for the result is a profound moral inconsistency. Furthermore, this God did it narrative creates a devastating logical vacuum regarding free will. Most theological frameworks prize human agency as the cornerstone of morality. Yet when it comes to procreation, that agency is suddenly erased. If it is truly God's will that determines every birth, then where is the room for human choice? If we are merely passive vessels in a divine assembly line, we are effectively claiming that we have no free will in the most consequential decision a human can make. You cannot claim to be an agent of God's will while simultaneously claiming you had no choice in the matter. You are either a responsible actor or a biological puppet. You cannot be both only when it is convenient. The logic of God's will is notoriously inconsistent. When a child is conceived, God is the author of life. It was meant to be. When a couple is infertile, they often turn to every medical intervention, hormone, and treatment available to bypass that will. If God truly knows what He is doing, then infertility should be accepted as a divine decree. But in practice, God's will is only invoked when it aligns with what the humans already wanted. When it doesn't, we suddenly remember that we have agency and science. The truth is simple. God knows what He is doing only when it is convenient for us. And even if we grant the premise that at some point a soul is given, that God completes the process, that still changes nothing about the ethical core of the issue, because none of it happens without you. The conditions, the act, the decision to initiate the process, all of it originates in human choice. Without your decision, there is no conception. Without conception, there is no moment for any supposed divine intervention to occur. You are the necessary cause. So responsibility does not disappear. It cannot be handed off. Invoking God at the final step does not erase the fact that you set the entire chain in motion. It does not undo the imposition and does not grant retroactive consent to the person who now has to exist, endure, and eventually die. But more importantly, it becomes a shield against ethical scrutiny. If God is the one who willed the child into existence, then the parents no longer have to answer for the pain the child may endure. They no longer have to face the fact that this person might suffer starvation, illness, trauma, exploitation, or despair in a system they never asked to be born into. They simply point upward and say, "It was meant to be." This is not spiritual depth. It is moral cowardice. If God wanted the child to exist, why make the process dependent on your decision? On whether you have sex, whether you carry a pregnancy, whether you bring that life into the world? Why make it hinge on your choices, your resources, your environment? Why would an all-powerful being outsource the most consequential decision imaginable to your biology and your whims? Because it's not about God. It never was. It's about people trying to cleanse their desires with divine language, about turning personal wants into sacred mandates, about justifying the unjustifiable by pretending that some higher power gave permission. Ethics does not disappear in the face of belief. If you create a person, you are responsible for that decision. You are responsible for every breath they take, every trauma they endure, and the death they must eventually face. You cannot hand that staggering weight to a deity and walk away. Invoking God to justify reproduction isn't faith. It is a theft of accountability. It is a way to play God while pretending to serve one. The truth is harsh. You are the cause. The weight is yours, and no amount of divine language can wash that away.